Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to A Pair of Bookends, the book club you can carry anywhere. I'm your host, Hannah MacDonald, and I'll be bookending the conversation with some of the most exciting voices from the bookish world. Welcome to our February book club episode. As it's the month of love, it was only right that we had a romance novel, and as you listeners know, they aren't usually my bag, so I'm always excited when I find one that I love, and this month's book club is dedicated to one that I loved very much, and that is The Rewrite by Lizzie, Damilola, Blackburn. Temi and Wale have a good thing going. They're happy, they meet each other's friends, they could even, maybe, fall in love. That is until Wale dumps Temi to go on the villa. Heartbroken, Temi throws herself into her writing with the goal of becoming a published writer and achieving her dreams. However, publishers continue to reject her novel and bills must be paid, so when a ghostwriting opportunity comes her way, she finds herself accepting. Only that opportunity is writing the celebrity memoir of her ex Wale. Could this bring them back together, or could it just cause more chaos? Lizzie Damilola Blackburn is a British Nigerian writer who grew up in South London. Her best-selling debut novel, Yinka, Where Is Your Husband, was selected by Nobel Peace Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai as a literati book club pick. In 2019, Lizzie won the literary consultancy Pen Factor writing competition with the early draft of said novel, and Oscar-nominated actor Taraji P. Henson named it as one of her top 5 books that made a difference. In 2023, Lizzie was a runner-up for a Diverse Book Award, and her book was also described by Queen of Romance Emily Henry as the spiritual heir to Bridget Jones' Diary. Here to chat about her latest novel, The Rewrite, which is out now and published by Penguin. Welcome, Lizzie, to A Pair of Bookends.
Hello, thanks so much for the brilliant intro.
Thank you so much for coming on. I've been so excited to speak to you, and I absolutely
Likewise.
inhaled this book. I loved it so much, and I'm really excited to chat to you about it. But before we dive in, I have to ask you my favourite question, which is, what are you currently reading?
So I just started a new book this morning
What is it?
called Main Character by another Lizzie, actually, Lizzie Frania. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. And it's out on Thursday, the 6th of Feb. And I guess it falls under a memoir. And basically, Lizzie is looking back on like a decade of her past dating life and relationships. And she's come to the realization that her life's like a rom-com and she's the main character.
I
And
love that.
yeah, it's so great. And basically each chapter kind of follows different like dating like stories. And I love that she kind of like plugs in different like rom-coms as well from the noughties. So yeah, it's a brilliant read, very funny, very transparent, and very relatable as well, which just shows that, we all have been in the same boat at one point in our lives.
And this is a
Yeah, highly
memoir.
recommend it. Yeah, I think it falls under that because based on her true life, like
Oh
her,
my God, that sounds
yeah.
amazing. That's such a great concept. I love that. Let's get into your book then, because I'm very excited to chat about it. I want to start off by asking about the dedication in your book, which you write to all the writers who doubt themselves don't. Why was it important to you to include this?
Yeah, so basically, The Rewrite was birthed out of a period of struggle for me as a writer. So it's my second novel, as you know. And my first novel, Yinka, Where's Your Husband, did pretty well, it received
You
rave
did more
reviews.
than pretty well. You're being humble.
I'll take it then. Received rave reviews. And I guess I went through a period of like second book syndrome.
Yeah.
So I was just like crippled with fear. And I really struggled to find something to write about. Had a lot of love and passion for Yinka. And I just wanted to have that same enthusiasm for the second book. And so, yeah, I doubted myself a lot during that period. I felt like I was a one-trick pony. My fellow authors who published the same year as me, they were like on their third, fourth drafts, and I was still struggling with my first one. And so, yeah, I guess like this book is like a living testimony to say like, you can do it. And, struggle is part and parcel of the process as well, but, don't ever give up.
Where do you think that fear and doubt came from? Do you think it was that you didn't think you'd be able to repeat the success of your first novel? Like, yeah, what was that, do you think?
Oh, everything really. It was that. So like I knew that readers are, naturally are going to compare the first book to the second
Yeah.
one, to that pressure. Also, like the context was different. So my first book, I was writing it, well, most of it, without an agent, without a publisher, I didn't have like a strict deadline.
Hmm.
But now I was writing under contract. And
So the pressure was
so,
on.
yeah, the pressure was on. And yeah, I guess just wanted to write a book even better than Yinka as well. So I kind of feel like the second book is more important than the first one. Because the first one, if you don't get it quite right, because it's a debut, people are more forgiving. The
Mm.
second one, I think people stand like the bar is higher.
That makes sense. This was actually my introduction to you, so I'm really excited to go back
Oh,
and
okay.
read your debut novel. But I can confirm this is such a great book.
Oh, thank
And
you.
I love it when I find, because my usual genre that I kind of have always gravitated towards is like contemporary literary fiction, and I have always been like scared to try other genres just in case I find something that I don't like, or I tend to have the worst fear of historical fiction because I feel like some of it just goes completely over my head, especially if it's quite dense. But with romance, yeah, I don't know what it is that made me have a fear about it. And I just absolutely love this and felt completely absorbed by it. And I think it's not kind of, I don't know, I feel like certain genres get a kind of, they get put in a box a little bit.
Yeah,
And actually, like some of the topics that you're exploring in this book, like they need to be represented. And I just thought you write so well and you write these
yeah.
beautiful, authentic characters that feel so real to me. And we will get more into that. But I want to talk about your protagonist, Temi, because, like how you've described with yourself, she has to show so much resilience in terms of her
Mm.
writing and her career. And she faces a lot of rejection with her book. How do you cope with rejection and what has kept you pushing forward?
I think the first thing is to embrace it.
Mm,
So to feel the feelings. So initially, I was supposed to write a sequel. So I had my mind set on writing a sequel to for Yinka.
right.
But then my editors were like, sequels don't do too well unless the first book is like an overwhelming success. So
Mm.
think about the Thursday night murder clubs by Richard Osman, for example. And I remember like I screamed into my pillow when my agent told me that I could no longer write a sequel because I was like, oh no, like I have nothing else to write. And I was like really upset, but I had to kind of like feel the emotions. And I allowed my agent to hear my emotions as well. I didn't just tell her I was fine. Like, I let her know how much it hurt. So I would say, yeah, embrace it first, but also know that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I didn't do a sequel because I feel like I would have kind of put myself in a box.
Mm.
So I think, the next thing to do is well, before that, I would say talk to someone. I'm
Yeah.
very like happy that I've got an amazing husband who is like my part-time therapist. And yeah, he's just so understanding and just so supportive as well, and really encouraging too. And also my faith as well. So, I'm a Christian and I draw a lot of my strength as well from God's. And also looking back at some of the things that I've gone through in my personal life and how
Hmm.
I'm able to overcome them. I'm like, okay, if I've been able to do that, I'm pretty sure I can do
You
this.
can
So
take on anything. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm glad that you've said that your husband's your part-time therapist because my boyfriend has definitely become that over the years. I'm an actor and a writer as well, and
Oh,
he's certainly had to see me through a lot of rejection. And he's the one that when I'm like, oh, fine, well, obviously I'm not good enough, I'm just gonna give up, and he's like, absolutely not. Like you've not worked this hard to just throw it all away.
yeah.
But I think you need that moment where you just kind of let out like all
Mm,
the emotions that you've kind of built up. Like it's more like a frustration if you've spent so much time or like you've put so much work and effort into something and it doesn't quite work out. Like you
yeah.
need that moment to just kind of let it out and then you move on and you keep
Mhm.
pushing. And thank God you did because like this book, I just loved it so much.
Oh,
And yeah, let's dive in a bit more because I should say that, well, I said in the intro that Temi's ex-boyfriend goes on a show show called The Villa, which is very similar vibes to Love Island.
Yes.
And I find those shows and the kind of cultural impact they have, I find them so fascinating. What interested you in exploring a character that's been through that experience?
Yeah, so like as I mentioned before, like, I was struggling to write this book, and during that period, I would often procrastinate, and
I think I
I
know where
did
this is
that with
going.
Love Island. And I think it was this season in 2022. And then I remember just like one night, I just woke up in the middle of the night. I had just this brain like wave of, oh, wait a minute, maybe I can write a book where the protagonist, like love interest, goes onto this reality TV dating show, ends up being like a big celebrity, and then somehow she has to work with him. Like, I wonder where that can take me. And yeah, and then when I, shared the idea with my agent and editors, they loved it. My agent was the one who actually recommended that, Temi be a ghostwriter. And like you, I find reality TV like very fascinating. And I love like how, not love, but I find it fascinating how the audience kind of split people into like bad and goods,
Mm,
the villain. It's a bit like a pantomime, I guess.
yeah,
And even though it's reality TV, it's actually not, because it's been edited.
yeah,
But it's funny how like people are so like passionate about the storylines, myself included, to the point where they feel like they know the person, and
yeah.
they might make judgments and take out their opinions, on social media. And I think sometimes people forget like these are real people here.
Hmm.
And it's going to have an impact on their lives, their
Yeah.
families, their friends, their loved ones, their mental health. And I thought it'll be a good opportunity to kind of like explore that.
Mm,
What happens afterwards? What happens, after they left the reality TV dating show and go back to the real world? And how do they navigate this kind of new life as well?
yeah. I can't let myself watch Love Island anymore because when I've previously allowed myself to watch it, it's just become like I have to watch it every night, and
Addictive, yeah.
it's so addictive. And now I'm kind of just as bad because although I don't let myself watch it, I go on the Instagram every day and I'm like looking at the clips of it because everybody's talking about it. So I'm like, well, I want to be in the know of what's going on, but I can't be watching it because if I watch it, I've like lost hours of my evening that like I need to be doing other stuff.
Yeah.
But it is so addictive, and you're right.
Totally.
Like, and I love the way you explored it in the book that, like, people get this particular kind of idea of who Wally is. And actually, like, he's like, no, that's not how it happened. Like, obviously, it's edited for entertainment. So, one conversation might be had, and people are like, God, that happened so fast. But actually, like, days
Yeah.
have passed, and they've just kind of pulled clips from here, there, and everywhere. And, they're trying to tell a story at the end of the day. So they want it to be compelling and gripping. But we seem to forget that. We think, no, what we're seeing is how it is. And that's not exactly the truth. So, yeah, I love that you did that. I also love the way that you explore masculinity in this book because, well, you write about it so beautifully, and it's a really important topic. It's the sort of pressures that are placed on men to kind of not show their emotions because if they do, it makes them look weak. And I think, that is an issue with men across the board, but I think it's a specific issue with black men. And, we see that with Wale and how he tries to kind of contain. I don't want to give any spoilers or anything, but he does try and contain his emotions and he doesn't want to
Yeah.
kind of reveal too much about himself. Why was it important to you to write about this?
Yeah. So, I have brothers, who are black, obviously, and my husband is black as well. My
Hmm.
son is black. And I've always at some point wanted to write a book that kind of explored, what it means to be a black man, and some of the pressures that they have to take on as well. I just didn't think that would be my second book. And I feel like over the last few years, especially on like social media, there's been like an explosion of like toxic masculinity.
Mm,
And
sure.
you have to be earning a certain amounts to be, considered a man, or you have to look a certain way,
Hmm.
or you have to be an alpha. I keep hearing that a lot.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, a lot of men are internalizing these messages.
Hmm.
And as a result, they are not being their authentic selves.
Yeah.
Like, and they, presenting this kind of like stoic persona, in the workplace or in their relationships or in their, in their personal lives. And it's kind of like damaging them from the inside.
Mm,
And I guess with Wale also being from, an African background, when you're taught from a very early age, you can't cry, or if you cry, you're too weak or you're too soft.
mm,
He's internalized these messages, and as a result, he has become emotional unavailable.
mm.
And he finds it very hard to be open and honest, especially in front of women. And when he has, he's been kind of hurt by that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just kind of wanted to get, for Black men to be seen, especially because like in the romance genre, I don't feel like they are given enough space as well to kind of
Mm.
explore some of the complexities that they have to navigate. To see at the ends that, that acknowledgements, I encourage readers to
Yeah.
pass to Black men.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you do that. Yeah, I think it is such an important thing, and I think there are stereotypes that are kind of placed on black men, and it's mainly around, that like the angry black male stereotype, and it's so toxic, and it's something that needs to change, and it can only change if these conversations happen and if these things are being represented on the page or on screen or wherever that may be. But yeah, it's good to be having these conversations, and I think you wrote it so well, and
Thank you.
yeah, it needs to be out there. So I love that you wrote about that. I've also, like I said, I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but you also write about the amazing role of carers and the impact that they have. Could you tell us why you wanted to highlight the role of carers in this book?
Yeah, so before I became a full-time writer, I actually worked for a carers charity, Carers UK, and it's a charity that's, very close to my heart, and I'm still, involved and support them to this day. And, unpaid carers, they basically are the backbone of society, and they take on, because, the NHS is stretched and has limited resources, they actually save the government like millions of pounds every single year.
Mhm.
But a lot of them are not compensated because, with caring, people see it as their duty. I'm looking after a loved one. Of course, I'll look after my mom, my dad, my son, my daughter. And so they are the unsung, heroes of society. And sometimes a lot of like focus can be on the ones who are being cared for as opposed to the actual carer. And they end up being, neglected, or even themselves, they put their own, emotional well-being to the side. And so it was, yeah, really important for me to kind of like just show a glimpse of what it's like to be a carer, and also to kind of like shine a light to them as well, and to celebrate, the contribution that they're making, not
Mhm.
just to their families, but society as a whole.
Yeah, it's a hard job. Like, it takes a lot. I mean, I've worked in the past in schools and worked as like a one-to-one TA with SEN children, and that took a lot of mental energy. So I can't even imagine what it's like to be working as a full-time carer. You're dealing with a lot of different situations and a lot of intense situations sometimes. And there's a lot of kind of media that's come out since COVID happened, sort of around that. I don't know if you've seen the TV series Help with Jodie Comer and Stephen Graham in it.
No.
It's a fantastic series, but it's set in a care home around COVID, and it just shows that like these jobs have become their lives, and they're so passionate about the people that they're taking care of, but they
Mm,
just don't get that recognition.
yeah.
So yeah, it's really important to celebrate these people, because what they're doing is what a lot of people wouldn't be able to handle, because it's a lot. Like,
Yeah.
it's intense, and to do that alongside living your own life and having your own families, it's a lot of pressure to be dealing with, for sure. I want to ask, of course, this is a romance novel, so I want to move on to that, because often this means that there are different tropes that are used, and I'm not a romance expert, as I've said, so I'm going to need your help here, Lizzie. But with this one, I would say maybe it's like enemies to lovers and a slow burn kind of romance, but I'm not sure if that's the right tropes that I've said. So could you tell us what the tropes are that you've used in this book, and what excited you about writing them?
Yeah, so I would also include second chance
Yes.
romance. Yeah.
See, I told you I don't know
Um,
what I'm talking about.
And there's one that a lot of readers hate, the miscommunication trope.
Yep. Yeah.
But I feel like, personally, of me biased, I feel like I executed it well.
Yeah.
Because I think the reason why readers hate it because they feel like, oh, just open your mouth and just say what you want to
But
say.
people don't like that's
Exactly.
real.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, given like, Waleed's background and how he struggles with being vulnerable and honest,
Mm,
it's not going to be as forthcoming,
yeah.
especially if he has like trust issues as well.
Mm,
And then I guess with Temi as well, like she's very ambitious, she wants to be a published author. And so if anything gets in the way with that, like again, she could be a bit fearful to kind of like be transparent.
mm.
Trying to think what else. Black love, I guess. Yeah, I think those are the main ones. Yeah.
They're all great ones. And I think Enemies to Lovers is probably like the one that people go a bit feral for. Like it just seems to be a thing
Yeah, I
across like
love
book
enemies
talk and stuff.
lovers.
Yeah, people love it.
Yeah.
And it is kind of that. I would say. I mean, it is that, isn't it? They go from I don't. I'm
It's
really
like
struggling to like
friends
how
to
do you navigate
lovers,
it? Yeah, exactly.
enemies to lovers.
There's like all the yeah, all of
Yeah.
that. And then back to enemies and then back to lovers and it's
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I think that's a great one. I do love miscommunication, but I do think whilst people get frustrated by that trope and they like you said they're just like just open your mouth and say how you're
Mm.
feeling. I think it's a very real thing that it's sometimes difficult to say how you're feeling and to be open with that. And you do sometimes hold back and you maybe go to say something and maybe like talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
There can be multiple reasons why somebody isn't upfront with how they're feeling, and it takes some time to kind of be like, actually, this is how I feel. So I think actually using that trope made it feel much more real and authentic and not a kind of, it's not, this doesn't feel at all like a far-fetched romance. And I think that might be where I've struggled previously with romance is if it's felt too far-fetched, whereas this definitely didn't.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
I no, I loved them and I really love these characters. And I have to ask you, would you ever return to them? I'm not sure now because you said before about the sequel thing, but
Yeah.
would you?
So what I'm doing now is like having my characters appear in like later books. So in this one, so Nana, who runs the boutique, do you remember that chapter when they go like dress shopping?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Nana's actually a character from Yinka.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no, that's a spoiler. Sorry.
That's fine. That's a small
Yeah.
one. It's
It's
a
just a little
small one.
cameo.
Little
Yeah.
cameo. I love that.
Yeah. So my next book as well, there'll be like, yeah, cameos from maybe from this book, from the second book.
Oh, we love to see that. I also want to ask if this book was adapted, do you have anybody in mind that you'd want to play these
Ooh.
characters?
So for Wale, I don't know if you know Aaron, oh, what's his last name? Aaron Pierre, I think that's how you pronounce it. The guy who
That's
plays the
Mufasa.
voice. Yeah.
I have been singing that all day. I'm so serious. Oh my God, what a guy. Yes.
I would love for him to play Wale. I feel like he's got the perfect looks, the green eye. Like he looks like an influencer.
Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with that. I
Yeah.
wrote down for him, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Tosin Cole?
Oh, yes, I love him as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
great. I think
He
was he
was
the
in
lead in Supercell?
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
he was
Yeah,
so good in that.
yeah, he's
That's who
amazing.
I had in mind.
Okay,
But yeah,
interesting.
I couldn't
Oh, I can
think.
see that actually. Yeah, he's got
Yeah,
like the charisma
yeah, for
and quite
sure.
cheeky. Yeah, I can see
But then I
that.
don't know if because is he quite short? Like, would you want somebody that's I don't know if he was tall in I don't know.
I think it's all right because I saw him in theater.
Oh,
He was in Shifters. I played
oh
for
my God, I
Shifters.
really wanted to see that. I heard so many
Yeah,
good
and he was
things.
amazing. And he looked tall from where I was sitting.
Okay, well that could work. Tell me, I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know if you need an
Yeah.
unknown.
Yeah. And I think it just shows that there's not a lot of like plus size black actors.
Yeah,
And
for
maybe there
sure.
are, but they're not given like a lot of attention.
No, the one that immediately came to mind was Dion something that played Queenie in
Oh my gosh, I thought the same thing. Yeah.
yeah.
That's the only one that came to
But it
mind.
shows that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
she's the only person that I could think of.
Yeah.
So yeah, that needs to change.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she would be great.
Yeah. He was great in Queenie. I love
She
him.
was
Yeah.
so good in Queenie.
Yeah.
Whilst we're on the subject of TV and film, I'm trying to segue here. You reference a couple of films in this book, and it's the Best Man and the Best Man's Holiday. What do
Yeah.
you love about those films?
Oh gosh. I just love like I love the fact that it's not a traditional romance.
Mm,
And also it's quite messy as well.
Mm,
And I love the friendship. There's like a friendship group, and I love like the banter between all of them. And I think it does a great job of like just showcasing like Black love and
hmm.
just putting like Black romance on the map as well.
Yeah.
I think it's my first introduction to like Black romances and where my love for the genre kind of like stemmed from. And also the men as well. They're good to look at.
I love this.
Yeah.
It's funny, now you've said that I haven't always favored the romance genre in terms of books, but I grew up on romance films. Like I was obsessed with watching romance films when I was in like my teenage years. And it was the typical ones like The Notebook and stuff like that. But Love and Basketball was one of my absolute
Oh, yeah.
favorites. It was so good. I
Mm.
loved that film so much. There was a lot of like Nicholas Sparks stuff, but that was one that felt very like real to me. It didn't feel like a kind of far-fetched romance. It was something that I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, no, I believe these characters. I also remember like really like crying watching that film. So yeah, if it wasn't already apparent to the listeners, I absolutely loved the rewrite, and I can't recommend it enough. I'm gonna pop a link in the show notes for you all to buy yourselves a copy, and I'll also pop a link in the show notes for if, like me, you've not come across Yinka, Where Is Your Husband yet? Because I will definitely be reading that next. Before I let you go, Lizzie, I do like to finish on a recommendation. So is there anything that you'd like to recommend before you go? Any books, TV, film?
Ooh. So first book that came to mind, it's a debut, but it's coming out in April, and it's called Chaotic Energy by Stephanie Yabua. I hope I pronounced my name right.
Yes, I've seen this.
Yeah,
It looks great.
it's really good. Yeah, I was very lucky to have an early proof, and it basically follows this plus size confident woman who is a plant influencer, which I love.
I love this.
And then she drags this like connection or like, yeah, connection with this guy who lives in the States. But then she ends up catfishing him because she's a bit like tentative about what he would think about, the way she looks.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a brilliant read. Again, it touches on like fat phobia, very moving as well, very witty. I loved it. So yeah, it's out in April.
I love this. I'm gonna have to add that to my wish list. She's also just a great person to follow on Instagram anyway.
Yeah.
I think she's great. I also need to ask, before I let you go, Lizzie, if there's anywhere that the listeners can follow you on social media.
Yeah, so I'm mainly active on Instagram, so at Lizzie Dami Blackburn, and for those still on X at Damilola Lizzie.
We're struggling out there. But Lizzie, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you
I've
so
loved
much,
chatting to
Lucy.
you and I've loved this book, so thank you.
Thank you.
And for the listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you want to give us a follow, you can do so at A Pair of Bookends Pod on Instagram and at A Pair of Bookends on Twitter and TikTok. Go buy the rewrite, which is out now, and go give Lizzie a follow. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.